When we are talking about Informatica, Informatica is basically a tool. Okay, Informatica is an organization which is having some product suite, which Informatica Power Center is one of them. It is the ETL tool which is used to load the data into the data warehouse. That's the basic use of this tool. It loads the data into the warehouse. Now, what a data warehouse is and what are the basic concepts behind a data warehouse, we need to know that first before talking about the tool itself. Now, what is a data warehouse? So this data warehouse is basically a collection of all the historical data which is needed for the decision making of the management. Such kind of data which will be used for reporting, which the management will see whenever they need to make some trend analysis or some kind of tactical analysis, any kind of analysis they want to do on the data and want to set some future trends for their organization. So such kind of management reporting is done from the data warehouses. It is not possible to do such kind of reporting from a normal transactional database. So when your business is running, we have a transactional database, collection of database tables, wherein your business related information is stored. That is your transactional database, where your daily transactions are taking place. So the data volume is so huge and the number of transactions throughout the day are so huge that you cannot go ahead and stop your business transactions and use that database for daily reporting. Okay, you cannot do that. Okay, you cannot play with the business transactions which are happening. So you have to have a centralized place where you keep the complete history. Moreover, you also need the historical information, right? So if there is a customer who has changed his location multiple times in 1 month and has done some shopping from multiple retail stores. So when the management wants to see the report for the complete month, customer-wise, so the management should be able to identify that this customer, this is that one customer who has changed 3 locations, but this is the amount of sales this customer has given me, right? So this will be available only when we store the history of that customer, right? So this is why a data warehouse is used for. We keep the complete historical information in the data warehouse. So those are known as your OLAP systems, online analytical processing, from where you do the analysis. Okay, so from the data warehouse, we do the OLAP processing. From there, we do the analysis with the help of reporting tools, or there are some OLAP tools, there are some OLAP functionalities within the reporting tools. With the help of those, we do the reporting. Okay, there is where your data warehouse is used for. Okay, so it is the integrated data which is stored in a centralized place, which is used for analysis of the data. Now, what is that centralized place? How does a data warehouse look like? Data warehouse is nothing but a kind of a huge database. It is a database itself, but it is different from the transactional database. It is used to store your historical information. Okay. Now, there are many definitions for a data warehouse. You can define it in your own way, but the most bookish definition, the most the common definition which you'll find everywhere is, which the father of data warehouse has given us. So Bill Inman and Ralph Kimball, these are the 2 important personalities who are related to the early times of data warehouses. When the data warehouses, they gave us the concept of data warehouses. 2 different concepts of data warehouses are there. I'll talk about that. So the basic definition of a data warehouse says, a data warehouse is a subject-oriented, integrated, time-variant, and non-volatile collection of data, right? So these are the 4 characteristics of a data warehouse, which helps the customer, which helps the business to get the exact reports. So it is subject-oriented. That means, I'm coming to this characteristic of data warehouse, and then I'll go back to the previous slide. So data warehouse has to be subject-oriented, integrated, time-variant, and non-volatile. Subject-oriented means data is organized subject-wise, based on the subject matter. Okay, so if the business, if the user wants to see which is our best customer for this particular item in the last year. Okay, so here basically if they're searching for the best customer, right? Best customer means who has done the most number of sales, who has given the most number of sales for a particular item. So sales will be the subject matter. So based on a subject matter, you store the data in the data marts, data warehouses, okay, based on different subject matters. So from there, you can pull the data. So you can load the sales data into the data warehouses. That sales will be the subject matter. If you're working in a banking project, your balance, account balance, and all those information will be your subject matter in those cases. So subject-wise, you load the data into your warehouses. So always your warehouse will contain the subject-oriented data. And integrated means since you are getting multiple sources, you have to integrate it and then load it into the data warehouse. You just cannot do a random load, just receive it from multiple sources and load it as it is into the warehouse. No, it has to be in one consistent format. You have to remove the inconsistencies from the data. You have to integrate the data and then load it to the data warehouse. For example, in an organization, multiple sources can be used, right? Some department might be using a flat file to store some data. Some other department might be using SAP. Some department might be using Oracle database. Some other department might be using MS SQL Server database. So each different department might be using a different type of source or system, right? So when you are receiving the data to load into the data warehouse, it is coming from multiple types of sources. Some from flat files, some from other application. So you're receiving the data from multiple types of sources. Okay, some from flat files, SAP and other databases, might be from some other messaging systems, from mainframe systems. It can come from XML files. So source can be anything. So when you are loading into the data warehouse, if there is one particular field which is coming from all these different types of sources, you have to integrate it and then load it into the data warehouse, right? So in the data warehouse, it's going to be in one format. So the structure of a data warehouse is different from the structure of your transactional databases, right? In the data warehouse, you only keep the things which you need for your reporting purpose, the business relevant things which you need for your reporting purpose. So that is analyzed when your data warehouse are being built, when the data modeling is being done. These things are analyzed and then the data warehouses are built basically. So that's the structure is different. Your source system can be many, but your data warehouse is one, right? Your data warehouse is one, but you can have some subsets of the data warehouse as well. But basically, the structure of a data warehouse is one. That's how you keep integrated data in your data warehouse. It is being received from multiple sources. Now, data is in a data warehouse can be time variant. So it is time variant. Okay, so it is not, the data is not current always, time series. You have all the history data there. Okay, so you have the current data, along with that you also have the historical data. So it's a time variant data. Okay, so in a data warehouse you can also find data as old as 5 years, 10 years. Okay, so that completely depends on the size which your warehouse can accommodate. So you are having the data in the data warehouse, complete historical data, and the load into the data warehouse is also done in a particular I would say in a particular frequency. Somewhere you will find the data warehouses are getting loaded once every day at the midnight after the business hours are closed, so that we do not give the pressure on the transactional systems. Okay. Somewhere you see it is running twice a day if the data volume is not high. If the data volume is low, you can also load into the data warehouses twice a day. Somewhere if the project which is running or if the business which is running is more real time, if they want more real time reporting, you might see that they are reporting directly instead of using the data warehouses, they are reporting directly from the ODS systems. They're trying to keep more real time data for reporting. That can also happen. Okay. So different scenarios and different way the data is handled, how it is loaded in the data warehouse. But if you talk about a conventional data warehouse, it will always have the historical data and all the data is dumped into the data warehouse once a day. That's how the standard is. because generally the data volume for major businesses, they are huge. The volume is huge. And over the years, it keeps growing. So most of the times you will find that once a day the load will be done into the data warehouse when the business hours are closed. So what is happening is you are having a snapshot of the data in the data warehouse. Let us say today or Monday, the complete day's business happens. At midnight 12, the data gets loaded into the data warehouse. Okay, so the Monday data is present in the data warehouse. On Tuesday afternoon, if the business comes and tells that I want this report till today, what is the total number of sales done in this location? If the business wants that, then that thing is not available in the data warehouse at that point of time, because warehouse still has yesterday's, Monday's snapshot, right? So you will have a variance there. So you are not getting the exact real-time data every time. So it depends on what is the refresh frequency which is happening in a data warehouse, how the data is getting loaded into the data warehouse. So here with time variant, we are telling that we are not only storing the current data, but we are having the historical data stored as well. Okay. Now come to the next property, which talks about the non-volatile. Conventional data warehouse, if we talk about, 90% of the times we are using the data warehouse for read only. We're only using it for reporting. That should be read only. Okay. Your data which is residing in the warehouse should not get updated, should not get changed over time. That makes it non-volatile. That was the overall idea. That was the basic idea of creating a data warehouse, so that you have everything at one place for reporting. Now, as the time has progressed, because this idea, this definition was given in 1990s, late 80s basically. So it has been around 30 years now since the concept of data warehouse has come, right? So things have changed now. It's not always a conventional data warehouse which we are using. We are trying to keep the things more real time. Now big data is coming in. Now we are having the cloud structures, right? So we do not know that how in the future data warehouses are going to be stored, means how the data is going to get stored in the warehouses in the future. Data virtualization is coming in, where people directly rely on the real-time data for reporting, right? So there are many things which are in the market, but if we talk about a conventional data warehouse, still these four characteristics hold good for a conventional data warehouse. Okay. Now, Bill Inman and Ralph Kimball, these two guys have given certain definitions of the data warehouse. So this is the basic definition. But the idea which they gave of a data warehouse, there's a clash between the ideas of these two guys, right? So now if you want to know the difference between what Ralph Kimball said and what Bill Inman said, there's a basic difference in the architecture in which they wanted a data warehouse to get built. That's the difference there. Okay, so Bill Inman always said that a data warehouse should be built in a manner. Bill Inman gave this first definition in 1980s. Okay, so Ralph Kimball came later in 1990s and just modified the things, how a data warehouse should be more modernized, right? So Bill Inman actually gave the architecture of a data warehouse. He said that a data warehouse should be built in such a manner. In an organization, whenever there is a requirement of building a data warehouse, you first take all the requirements and build a data warehouse. One data warehouse should be built throughout the organization, and when the company or when the organization feels that they need different subject matters to be stored in different subsets of a data warehouse, then the concept of data mart came. So Bill Inman said, first build the data warehouse, then from there you send the relevant data to separate data marts. Build multiple data marts like sales data mart, okay, inventory data mart, or different data marts you build, and in that you bring in the information from the major big data warehouse, and from the data marts you will do the reporting. That was the idea of Bill Inman. That was a very robust idea, and that was a very that framework of a data warehouse is still considered to be the best framework. But the disadvantage there is it is time-taking process. You first have to build the complete big warehouse throughout your organization, and then you have to go for the data marts. So that's a very time-taking process. So to build one data warehouse across the organization, the total time it might take can be around 1 year or even more than that. So that's a very big time-taking process. Clients will nowadays will never wait for 1 year to one data warehouse to complete and then wait for the reporting. That's never possible. That's why nowadays when the new data warehouses are getting built, nobody goes for this architecture. This is known as a top-down architecture. Okay, so nobody goes for the top-down architecture nowadays. Everybody prefers the bottom-up. That is your Rolf Kimball architecture, wherein Rolf Kimball came and modernized the thing, and he said that let us not go for the data warehouse. Let us first identify which are the small areas where we can divide the data into separate data marts. We prepare multiple data marts and start working parallelly in getting the reports from those small data marts, and parallelly we will also work on building that big data warehouse if required. Okay, so that was the idea of Rolf Kimball, which basically enhanced the complete thing, and the reports are available to the client more easily, or I would say in lesser time with less cost involved in it. So the initial cost is less. That's what clients prefer. They get the reports faster. Earlier, this thing will get completed within 2 or 3 months. You can prepare the data marts and start giving them the reports, and parallelly you can carry on building your data warehouses. So this thing can go on, right? So that's why this bottom-up approach is preferred. So this is the overall idea about the difference between the concepts of Rolf Kimball and Bill Inmon. So coming back to why do we need a data warehouse and who needs a data warehouse? Whoever wants to see a report, whoever wants to do an analysis of the complete organization's data will need a data warehouse. So we as ETL developers will need the data warehouse just to understand the architecture and load the data into that. People who are working on the reporting tools, they need the data warehouses to analyze and pull the data from the data warehouse. People who are working at the client end as data stewards, who are going to read that data and work on that data, the data stewards from the client side, they will be working on that actual data and try to pull make more meaningful take out more meaningful data out of your reports, right? So at various levels, various kind of people in different roles need this data warehousing. Clear? Two types of systems we'll talk about, the OLTP system and the OLAP system. OLTP is online transaction processing. That is your relational database, your transactional database where you're doing the business. OLAP is your analytical processing, where you're using it for analysis. Simple. Obviously, OLAP will be bigger in size. It will be in TBs because it's going to store your data, historical data throughout the organization. That too, it will be growing day by day. So you need more size there. OLTP is business data. It handles your day-to-day operations. Your DBAs will be using it. Whoever is handling your day-to-day operation, whoever is working with your day-to-day operation will be handling your OLTP system. So the size of the OLTP databases will obviously be small. Data will get updated, deleted, modified. So it has to be smaller in size, right? A transactional database, the OLTP system is based on the ER model. That's what we use to prepare our relational databases. Right? So that will work on the entity relationship model. We need to know what all entity and attributes our tables will be having and what all relationships they will be having. That's it. But when we talk about analyzing the data, it's more complex. We have to pull the data in the form of reports. We have to join multiple data and pull them in the form of reports. Then we need to go more deeper into the model. So we use the dimensional modeling here. There are several schemas which are present under the dimensional modeling. So in OLAP systems, we go for the dimensional modeling, wherein we'll have multiple dimensions, some facts, we will join them and then pull the reports. Okay, and that too, that data has to be further drilled, okay, drill down, and roll up of the data needs to be done at the reporting end. So you need to do a lot of things while designing your dimensional model, right? So that's a bit more complex than your ER model. So in the OLAP systems, we have the dimensional models, right? Subject-oriented data is stored. Subject-wise, separate tables will be there, dimension tables. Access OLTP system is your daily transaction system. So read, write, all operations can be done there. OLAP system used for analysis, it will be mostly only read operations it will support. Okay, database size will be more for the OLAP system. Obviously, it's huge. It's going to store history. So, and summarized data is going to be there. So, size would be huge. So, data warehousing life cycle. So, the complete phases you have in an end-to-end data warehousing project. It is talking about the complete data warehousing project. Okay, not about an ETL project or a sub project. So we are talking about the complete life cycle of a data warehouse. We start with the requirement collection. We go ahead with the data modeling. Data modeling is done by the data modelers, or sometimes if it is a small project, developers themselves are involved in the data modeling. So business analysts will be involved till this phase, till we complete the data modeling, because a lot of help we get from the analysts who are working with the business side. Okay, because they have an idea, complete functional idea of the business is with them. So while doing the data modeling, a lot of help is needed from them. Once the data is modeled, we need an ETL tool to develop some jobs which will pull the data from the source and load it into the data warehouse. For that, we need the ETL development. This is the phase in which Informatica developers come into picture. This is where you all will come into picture when you work as a developer, basically, right? So you'll be using the Informatica Power Center at this stage to pull the data from the sources and load it into the data warehouse. Then comes the testing. Once you prepare your jobs for as a developer, then that has to go into the QA phase. That will be tested. Then your report development, your reporting tool, your reporting team would be there, who will be working there. There are many reporting tools in the market, Cognos, BO, many more, Tableau, now ClickView, and many more data virtualization and reporting tools are there. So this will be the report development phase, where once the data is loaded into the warehouse, reports will be pulled from there. Okay. And then finally that is deployed, and then it goes into the production phase. So once the data is available to the client, the reports are available to the client, that goes to the production, and then it has to be maintained stable. So from the production, that is up to the production support, and then the maintenance of the system will go on for a certain period of time. So this is the overall phase in a data warehousing life cycle. Yeah. Let us now come to the more details of a design of a data warehouse. As I told, now we know what a data warehouse is. So we need to know how to design a data warehouse. Just a basic idea, we're not going into much details. We need to know that when we are modeling a data warehouse, when we are preparing a data warehouse, what are the things which we need? What are the things which we should start with? Even if you're not working as a data modeler, these are the things which you need to know, because even if you're working as a developer, ETL developer, you need to know that where your data is going actually, which tables it is hitting, okay, how is the architecture of your warehouse, so that you can better design your job. Which one to load first, which one to load later. So this all is dependent on the warehouse architecture. That's why we need to have a brief idea about how does the data model of a data warehouse look like. As I had told you that here the data model which we are using is a dimensional model. We have the concept of facts and dimensions. We have some tables, we have some dimension tables. These are the two basic objects of a dimensional model. Okay, and then how we relate them decides what kind of schema you are using. So there are three types of schemas which we can use when designing our data warehouse, when modeling our data warehouse. We can use the star schema, we can use the snowflake schema, and we can use the constellation, the fact constellation schema, which is like a galaxy schema, we can tell it. So these three types of schema we can use for data modeling, for modeling our data warehouse. Before going into the types of schemas, we should know what does this fact and dimension mean. Then I am coming to the schema part. First, we will be discussing what is a fact and what is a dimension. I think that's there in the next PPT. Okay, let me first talk about the schema, then I'm going back to that discussion as well. In a dimensional model, we have facts and we have dimensions. Okay, now what's a fact and what's a dimension? First of all, before doing the designing the model, we need to understand how the data is present in our business, what kind of data the business is dealing with. From there, we identify the facts and the dimension. Fact is all the measurable entities in your business, whatever you are able to measure and can make as a subject. So whatever you can think of as a measurable entity in your business can be treated as a fact. That can be a fact. Now sales, if you want sales per customer, if you want sales per location, if you want sales per date, per quarter, per year, per week, okay, if you want sales per region. So here you can see sales is a measurable entity. This is something which is giving you in numbers, which is related to all other data. Sales according to location, sales according to customer, sales according to week, month or quarter. That means according to time or date. Okay, so the sales is the center things. You can think of it as a central object or a measurable object which can be kept as a fact. So any measurable entity you will decide it to make as a fact when you are designing your warehouse. Okay, so any measurable entity you'll keep it under your facts. That is a fact. So we keep them under a fact table. These are known as facts and they are present inside a fact table. Okay, now what are dimensions? Now when we want to get some reasonable information or some relevant information based on a fact, we need to relate it with some dimensions. Okay, so any supporting data which will give you a relevant information only when they are related with the fact is known as a dimension. Like customer. Customer will be a dimension because sales information you will get based on each customer. Okay, so customer we can tell it as a dimension. Similarly, date. Date is a dimension. Time is a dimension. Sales we can get based on date, based on time. Sales we can get based on location also. So location can also be a dimension. So all these supporting data which is going to give you meaningful information when they are related to the fact are all your dimensions. They will be kept under separate dimension tables. So that is how we first of all identify our tables. First we identify the data, then we try to identify the tables, the objects. Okay, so we have fact tables and we have dimension tables. Clear? Now there are several types of facts and dimension we have, and based on this facts and dimensions we have the star schema, we have the snowflake schema, and we will have the fact constellation schema. Okay, so in the star schema the structure would be something like this, and it is surrounded by all the dimension tables. It looks like a star structure. Fact table will have the fact, sales here is the fact, and it will have the foreign keys of all the dimension tables. So all the foreign keys will be related to the dimension tables. This is how the structure is. This is known as your star schema. With fact table in the between, surrounded by all the dimension tables. Fact table will have all the foreign keys. It will connect to all the primary keys of the dimensions. Now this custom store will have a store ID, which is the primary key for the store. So you can see this foreign key in the store ID here in the fact table is getting connected to this store dimension. It will have all the foreign keys. Apart from the fact, it's going to have all the foreign keys for the dimension tables. Clear? Now snowflake schema. So snowflake schema, when your dimension table you are keeping in a normalized format. In a star schema, tables are not normalized. All of them are in denormalized format. We have separate tables for all dimensions. No normalization. In snowflake schema, the some of the dimension tables can be normalized to avoid duplicates. Okay, or to get the data more easily. Okay, or to keep some meaningful data in a separate dimension, we kind of break the dimension tables into multiple dimensions. So here you can see it looks like a star structure only, but further these dimension tables are breaking into multiple, or I would say some child dimensions. So another dimension table will come out of that main dimension table. So it will become, the structure will kind of become normalized here. This store dimension has been normalized, and the city information has been kept aside in a separate dimension table. So this kind of structure is known as snowflake, which is quite common. So some of the tables you might want to keep as normalized. Okay, not all, but some of the tables you can keep as normalized. City store has been normalized, and city information has been kept aside in a separate table. Similarly, here product information was there, so item information has been cut off from this product table, and it has been stored in a separate dimension table. So this kind of structure is normalized structure, and this is known as your snowflake schema, where it looks like a star, but your some dimension tables are stored in a normalized form. Now coming to the third one, which is again one of the most common format these days we use in data warehousing model, that is your fact constellation schema. So this complete structure looks like a galaxy, looks like a collection of our constellation. Okay, so here what is happening, we are having multiple fact tables, and these fact tables are sharing the dimensions. Now when a fact table shares dimensions, okay, when multiple fact table will share a dimension, and obviously the structure will kind of become like a constellation. One fact getting related to multiple dimension, and then other fact is also referring to the same dimension. The structure will look like a constellation. So this is known as a fact constellation schema. In this example, you can see fact 1 is connected to D1, D2, dimension 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Now these 3 and 4 are also, fact 2 is also referring to these D3 and D4. Quite common scenario. So this can happen. Like if you have the sales information and inventory information. Okay, so if you have two fact tables, one sales fact and one inventory fact, and you have a customer dimension. So both sales, or you have a, let us say, time dimension, best example, time or date dimension. So both the facts will refer that date or time dimension, right? So here the structure will become like a constellation. That is an example of a fact constellation schema. This is about your different data modeling techniques we use to design our data warehouse. Now data cleansing is a process of cleaning your data. So where do you clean your data? This is the stage where we bring the data from the source, keep it in some staging area, keep it in some area. Now what is the staging area? I'm going to tell you. Staging area is any area within a database, or it can be a flat file area within the server. It can be a flat file or a relational database, where you bring in the data from the source, keep it, clean it there, and then load into the data warehouse. That means from the source you are directly not loading into the warehouse. In between you are staging it somewhere. That is the staging area. Okay. There we bring it, do the cleaning stuff, and then load it. So we basically do that because sometimes what happens, when you do the load into the data warehouse and some problem occurs, you lose the source data. That you do not know where did this data come from. So if you have a staging, then you'll be able to relate, and you will not have to reread from the source again if you have some failures while loading into the warehouse. So you can directly do the cleaning once again from the stage itself and load it. So that's why we make use of the staging area, right? So for more efficient cleaning and for more efficient recoveries, or for more efficient analysis, I would say, not recovery, for more efficient analysis, we have those staging areas. And sometimes you see that overall processing is increased, the overall processing time is, we get a benefit in the overall processing time by including the staging areas, so that we do not have to read the data multiple times from the same source. We have it somewhere in the stage, and multiple tables can be loaded from that stage area. So some performance enhancement is there. So data cleansing is cleaning your data. So cleaning of the data can be of any type. Okay, that can be like, here the example has been given, Apple iPhone 6s 32 GB. Okay, but in the data warehouse, it will be storing as iPhone only. So you have to remove the other data. Another good example would be your phone number. Multiple systems are sending you phone numbers in different formats. from some system the phone number is coming with a country code plus and then the country code and then a hyphen and then the phone number. From some systems it is coming as plus country code and then no hyphen and then the 10-digit phone number. Okay, and from some other sources it might come as simply the country code and the 10-digit phone number without a hyphen or a plus, right? So while loading into the data warehouse, you want to clean it and load it in only one format, that is without a plus, without a hyphen, simply the country code will be kept in a separate column and only the 10-digit phone number you want to store. So you have to do a substring, clean the hyphens and clean the plus symbols and have to check whether 10-digit is there or not, then only you will load it into. So this is known as your data cleaning, data validation and data cleaning. So you will clean the data and then load into the warehouse so that your warehouse doesn't contain junk data.